Okay, boys and girls, this is our Chapter 1 study guide. A few things to note for studying is to watch this video, which obviously you are, to look over the study guide that we did in class, so read that a few times, and also to look over and read Chapter 1, Lessons 1 through 4, and you should be more than fine. And if you wanted to, you could also look over the definitions in your packet that we did in class. Okay. So a few things. One is all living things have certain characteristics. So all living things have a cellular organization or also are made of cells. So you can see in this picture I have at the top, we have an organism, which is, or a living thing, which is a human, and it breaks it all the way down till we get to a cell, and that's the basic unit of life. The second thing is all living things contain similar chemicals like DNA and water. All living things use energy. All living things grow and develop. All living things respond to a stimuli. All living things reproduce. An organism with many, many cells is called multicellular. Humans are multicellular. Plants are multicellular. And here's another picture of a multicellular, and I believe it's from a plant. Unicellular organisms are like bacteria and protists, and they are made up of only one cell. This is a cell, which is a basic unit or structure of life, and in here you'll see that's the nucleus right there. So the nucleus is right here, which contains DNA, among other things. Next, we're going to talk about stimuli and a response. So in this picture, you will see a hand, and the hand is touching a hot pan. So the stimulus is the hot pan. The response then is that the hand moves away, so it feels hot. This is Reddy's experiment. So in Reddy's experiment, we need to know about spontaneous generation. A few things about spontaneous generation. It was thought a long time ago that some organisms just appeared out of nowhere. So in this picture, which represents Ray's experiment, he proved that's not correct. What he did was he put old or aged pieces of beef, and in the first one right here, he had the cap open. The second one, he put on a cap that would not let any smells escape or let the flies get in. And then finally, in the last one, he put a cloth in there so the flies could smell the rotten meat. And what the flies did was they laid their eggs on the rotten meat because they want the eggs, which turn to larvae, to eat the meat. But in the third one, you could see that they just placed them at the top. So this proved that there's no such thing as spontaneous generation. This is just another picture of it. So this one was from Reddy's experiment. And down here we talked in class, and also in your book, about Louis Pasteur's experiment using broth and how he let air in, and when he let air into the broth, bacteria formed. When he didn't let air in, there was no bacteria present. Okay, next we have autotrophs versus heterotrophs. So we know autotrophs make their own food, and the perfect example would be plants. Plants make their own food. They use photosynthesis, which we're going to study in the next chapter that we do. And heterotrophs get their energy by eating other things. They don't make their own food, so they cannot make their own food. They will eat either other heterotrophs or autotrophs. All right, all living things or all organisms need four basic things. One is they all need water to survive. Two, they need to get energy, and they get energy from food. So it's food. They need food. Three, they need a place to live, or a habitat. And four, they need a stable internal condition, which is homeostasis. So homeostasis is, for example, when it's cold outside, we shiver. When it's warm outside, what we do is sweat. So we want to maintain that stable internal condition. Okay, the next thing that we need to know is we need to know the study of classifying living things, and that's called taxonomy. So let me shrink this down. This is taxonomy. And that's the scientific study of classifying living things. Next is binomial nomenclature, which is Linnaeus came up with. That's the naming system. It's a two-part naming system of living things. And the first part, right here, is the genus. The second part is the species. The first part is capital. The genus is capital, species is not capitalized. And it's written in italics. You'll see that we have genus and species is the most specific name or characteristic. Okay, so the next thing that we need to know is that the domain, which is the top, is the broadest. So it has the most different organisms in there, is the domain. There are three different types of domains, and those three different types are bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Eukarya is where we are. So we have bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Those are the three domains. Inside the domains, eukarya are kingdoms, and that is protists, fungi, plants, and animals is the kingdoms inside eukarya. Next, we talked about prokaryotes and also eukaryotes. A prokaryote does not, there's no nucleus in there. A eukaryote, which U means true, so there's a true nucleus inside there. We are a eukaryote because we have a nucleus inside the cell. And that's just another picture. Next, the eukaryote we talked about contains protists, fungi, plants, and also finally animals. And the last thing that we need to, well, here's another picture of it. So we have protists, fungi, plants, and animals for eukarya. And finally, we talked about Darwin and his theory of evolution. So evolution is a process of change over time. He also talked about natural selection. So here's an example of natural selection we talked about. All right, well, if you watch the video, obviously you're doing that. Look over what we did in class, our study guide, and read chapter 1, lesson 1 through 4. You're going to be more than fine.